I'm always intrigued by cryptid encounters that seem to fall outside the norm. Last year I made a video about a woman named Allison Yellowknife, who encountered what she described as bipedal panthers, or Panther Man. That case seemed to be directly related to a UFO event that occurred earlier in her life, and I've come to believe that what she was seeing was merely a projection or a screen memory. In my two most recent videos, I've gone over how the visitors are able to manipulate people by projecting images into their mind, creating screen memories meant to calm the witnesses. Though in some cases, I believe the visitors project images that are meant to elicit absolute fear. I think this is what happened to Allison Yellowknife. That said, I want to discuss another Panther Man sighting that occurred in central Kansas. Since about the early 1960s, people have been encountering all types of bipedal big cats, including lions, tigers, leopards, cougars, and of course, panthers. Though not nearly as abundant as dogman or wolfman sightings, there are reports of bipedal cat creatures from all over the world. What sets them apart from other cryptids is that they seem to be extremely aggressive. People who encounter them are often left absolutely terrified and thankful to be alive. In 1994, Ray Jones settled into his new life as a woodcarver. He had just retired and looked forward to his future of carving and taking care of the sizable vegetable garden, chickens, cows, and geese that resided on his multi-acre farm in central Kansas. He frequently entered his wood carvings into area contests and would sometimes win prizes, which increased the value of his carvings in the community, which of course allowed him another source of income for which to enjoy his retirement. Though, 4 years later, his seemingly happy life would take a brief detour into the bizarre when a strange visitor arrived on his property. It was June 1998. Jones recalls he was working late in the outbuilding he had converted into his woodcarving studio when he overheard his two crows, Elsie and Esther, squawking at something. He immediately recognized the sounds as something not good. Generally, it meant that they were in some sort of distress. Soon his dog and the other animals on the farm began to react. Buster, my old Airedale, sat up and growled. Then the geese down by the pond cut loose, squawking and trumpeting like all Billy hell. There are no watchdogs as good as geese, 'cause they're so dang territorial. Jones assumed a stray dog or a feral cat had somehow wandered onto the property and was making for the henhouse. He put down his tools and stepped outside the studio. He noticed that it was a full moon, and all the area around him was visible without a flashlight. He then heard the chickens going crazy in the henhouse, and quickly headed in that direction. His only protection was a big stick, though he assumed that whatever was causing the problems would skedaddle as soon as he made his presence known. He opened the henhouse door and began waving his stick wildly in the air, calling loudly to whatever was inside. Although it was almost completely dark in the henhouse, I felt the hair stand up on the back of my neck when I saw something dark stand up and growl back at me. I'm about 5'11", and it was as tall as I am. Then it charged me, knocking me flat, placing its paws on my chest and looking down at me. I nearly had a heart attack when I found myself staring into the open jaws and pointed fangs of a black panther. At that point, his dog Buster arrived on the scene, barking like crazy and nipping at the large black cat straddling his master's chest. Jones noted that he actually feared that the creature would kill Buster. One swipe of its claws could slice the old dog into hamburger, he noted. Just then, Jones observed that something seemed to startle the cat, or for whatever reason, the creature decided he wasn't worth the trouble, and it climbed off him. Jones was shocked to see it stand up, like a man. It rolled off me, and I swear that it stood upright on its hind legs. After scanning the property briefly, the creature took a few steps and then dropped back down onto all fours, whereupon it took off running at top speed across the expansive field, eventually disappearing into the darkness of the night. Though Jones and his animals escaped unscathed, the event didn't sit well with him. In fact, he was terrified. He immediately called the sheriff's office to report the attack and to warn others in the community that a big cat was on the prowl. Not surprisingly, the responding officers were not very receptive to his account of being attacked by a bipedal black panther. At first they thought I had been drinking. Then they told me what I already knew: there was no black panthers in Kansas, and that there hadn't been any cougars reported in the state for decades. A deputy finally did drive out to investigate the scene, but he just chuckled and said that sometimes in the dark, a big old tomcat could seem mighty big and vicious and startle a fellow half to death. Jones was certain that what he encountered was not a big old tomcat. He saw a black panther that was capable of bipedal movement on its hind legs, a catman. There were no other reports of such a creature in the area where he lived. Apparently whatever it was had moved on. I guess he just jumped back into whatever nightmare he jumped out of, Jones noted. Jones's account is very similar to that of Mike Busby, a case investigated by Lauren Coleman. On Friday, April 10, 1970, Mike Busby was driving on Route 3 to Olive Branch, Illinois. At about 8:30 p.m., a mile south of Olive Branch, on a dark, deserted road that paralleled the edge of the Shawnee National Forest, Busby's car suddenly died. He exited his vehicle and began to release the hood latch when he heard a noise on his left side. He was startled to see two quarter-sized, almond-shaped, greenish-glowing eyes staring at him. Before he had a chance to move, the figure, 6 feet tall, black, and upright, quickly advanced on him. Without warning, it hit him hard in the face with two large padded front feet. The creature straddled his chest, ferociously clawing at Busby, who sustained wounds on his left arm, chest, and abdomen. Busby managed to grab the top and bottom of the creature's mouth, keeping it at bay. He was certain it was trying to bite into his throat. He noticed its yellow canines, and its body hair or fur was short and wiry, quote, like steel wool. A diesel truck soon passed, and Busby was able to see the creature's color was a shiny, slick black. He also could see the shadow of its tail. The truck's headlights apparently scared the creature, and with, quote, heavy footfalls, it loped off across the highway. It was running on 2 legs. Destination America's Monsters and Mysteries in America did a reenactment of this case in an episode titled Demon Panthers, which aired on March 25, 2015. Both Mike Busby and investigator Lauren Coleman were interviewed about the case. In 1969, a Chicago man driving on an isolated road in Niles, Michigan, claims he also encountered a strange bipedal cat-like creature standing by the side of the road. He immediately slowed down to observe it more clearly. To his utter horror, the cat-like creature suddenly rushed up to his car and attacked it, punching the windows with large clawed fists and shattering them in 4 places as the driver sped away. The driver claims that it emitted an awful squealing sound that he found deeply disturbing. In July 1964, 2 campers in Mount Tamalpais in Marin County, California, also claimed that they were harassed by a pair of strange bipedal cat-like entities. Some were out in the darkness, not far from their camp. They could hear 2 animals chittering back and forth with each other. One remained hidden in the bushes, while the other moved close enough to the camp that the witnesses were able to see it. Paul Conan described what they saw. Its head was close to its body, and below the shoulders it was very muscular. No ears could be seen. They also noted that it didn't appear to have a tail. They guessed its weight at around 200 pounds. It appeared to walk on 2 feet. Though it did not have ears or a tail, something about the creature reminded them of a cat. In 1968, a Connecticut bus driver couldn't believe his eyes when something that looked like a tiger, standing on 2 legs, walked across Valley Street in New Haven. Upon getting to the other side, it disappeared into the brush that lined the sides of the road. So shocked by what he had just witnessed, he immediately contacted the police, who arrived on the scene within minutes of the call. A brief search ensued. Sadly, they could find no trace of anything that looked like a tiger in the area. A man named Pete claims that in 1980, he encountered a bipedal cat creature in the woods outside Toronto in Ontario, Canada. There were 3 of us on a night shift on a gold rush run in a pilot plant, Ontario Research Foundation just west of Toronto. We were coming in at midnight, and up to the industrial door, the little peak windows you have at eye level, was this 6-footish black, all-black creature, with its face right up to the window. So it didn't see us approaching, and I guess it heard the car. Maybe the lights caught its peripheral vision, and it turned and looked at us, and the eyes were goldish, reflective, and there was something about its face that was kind of like cat-like, and we were startled. It was obviously startled, and, we're looking at each other, approaching in the car for a couple of seconds, and it just turned and bolted into the woods. I want to look this fellow up to see what he remembers of the incident, but I'm 100% serious and 100% sure we both saw exactly the same thing. Only one other guy, he was in the plant at the time, and I guess this creature was peeking in, just seeing what's going on in there. But we both told him what we saw, and we were just like, I say, very startled ourselves. But I know what I saw, and the thing is, there was something about it that wasn't ape-like, although it was all black fur. There was something about the head that was kind of like a cat-like creature, and the way it ran, 2 legs. It was like a human figure, but the speed of the thing when it tore off through the woods was unbelievable. Interestingly, another strange cat-like creature was sighted by 2 workers at Black Sturgeon Lake, also in Ontario, Canada. Filmmaker Dee Macaulay discussed the case in his amazing 2018 documentary, Northern Lights.
Off Highway 1117 at Herkin, Ontario, there is a road leading to the Black Sturgeon Lake, an 80-kilometer ride. 2 men were hired by the forestry sector to build a dock on the lakeshore. They had worked all week and by Friday evening had almost finished. They were to return Monday. They worked into the evening, and it was decided to finish work Saturday morning rather than take the long trip back up after the weekend. It was a good idea, and they made the camp for the night. It was about 2 a.m. when the 2 awoke without a word being uttered. They began to break up camp and started loading the truck in a more and more hurried pace. It is then that they saw something. As they shone the flashlight, there in the tall jack pines hung a creature staring them down, described as having the features of both a cat and a human. The 2 leapt into the truck in terror as the driver put the pedal down all the way to the highway in startled silence.
So was Ray Jones attacked by a bipedal catman on his farm in Kansas in 1998? Or was it, as the deputy insisted, merely a tomcat and a trick of light and shadows? As I've shown in this video, Jones's case is not a one-off. There does appear to be a small but ever-expanding list of reports involving people encountering and many times being attacked by a strange bipedal cat-like creature. Researchers like Lauren Coleman, Brad Steiger, Lon Strickler, Timothy Green Beckley, Brenton Sawin, Nick Redfern, and Albert Rosales have all collected cases involving bipedal cat creatures, or cat people. What they are and where they come from is anyone's guess. I just hope I don't run into one.